So I'd like to welcome everyone to Ermineskin Cree Nation's Maskwacîs Tribal Council press conference regarding this COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to welcome Chief Alberta First Nations Regional Chief Marlene Portress, Chief of the Louisville Tribe, Mr. Sorry, I'm having a brain. My brain just clogged up. Urban Bull. Chief of one job. I had one job. Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of Turban Bull or something as Urban Bull. Chief from the Samson Cree Nation, Vern Saddleback. Chief from the Ermineskin Cree Nation, Greg McInall. And we have Montana, I want to say Seconda, proxy chief, Bradley Rabbit. And we have international lawyer and Grand Chief, Dr. Wilton Littlechild here present. I'm Josh Littlechild. I'll be chairing this meeting today. So I'd like you to look at your agendas, and we will start with the declaration for why we're here, as well as we're signing a declaration. So I'll hand the mic over to Chief Dr. Wilton Littlechild to give us a brief overview of what this declaration is about. We'll do the signing, and then we'll have the chiefs. We'll have the chiefs. Oh, we're going to do it after. We're going to do it after. Okay, so we'll do the. Sorry, we'll do it. We'll do the declaration after. But we'll have the chiefs come up and say a few words. So I'd like Chief of Ermineskin Cree Nation, Chief Greg McInall, if you could come up and say a few words. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. We're here this morning to talk about the state of emergency that we're facing right now in Maskwacîs. And I'd just like to welcome all of you here this morning. Welcome out, our health workers from MHS and all other staff that are here and our communications people. So it's like to welcome all of you here this morning. There'll be lots to be said here from all of us, so I'll just keep my comments brief for now. And so with that, it's like to welcome all of you here into Ermineskin at our new hall, and have a good day today as we discuss this COVID-19 virus. Okay.
Thank you for those words. I would like to call up Mr. Chief Vernon Saddleback.
Thank you. That's no damn tick. Yeah. You know, and he's telling me now. I'm really grateful to be here today. This morning, I was listening to the news as everyone's watching the news to see where the latest on the pandemic information is at, and I saw an announcement by the Conservative Party of Canada announcing that they'd be supporting the financial economic pandemic bailout bill that's being pressed forward by the Liberals. And as Canadians, that's just a sign that we are all in this together. And that this is finally bipartisanship in action amongst the federal government. And for me, it's one of the stances that we've always taken here in Maskwacis Cree is that we can't turn a health problem in our country into a political one. But at the same time, the leadership of all First Nations, of the government of Canada, the Alberta governments, we all still have a role to play in this ongoing pandemic situation we're all facing here in Canada. And then that's why we are here today. We are as every one of us in each of our 4 communities will attest to, and for all other communities within Canada, is that, we're all woefully underfunded at the moment because, we've all been caught off guard by this, the speed of how this has happened and direction that this pandemic has been going. So, we need to call a state of emergency, and, and I want to reassure people at Samson Cree Nation, this is not a time to panic. This isn't about panic. This is really about everyone in the system, everyone from politicians to our health leaders to our emergency management directors in each community, all doing our part to try and make sure we're ready for this pandemic crisis that's kind of sweeping the globe, that's sweeping the world at this moment. So, so today, calling a state of emergency is really about allowing us now to try and allocate funds where it needs to be allocated. We need to try and address some of the health issues for our people that they're facing. For example, our local hospital has closed the ward to anyone who's showing signs of the flu, and which really puts our people at risk, because our ambulance is still picking up people who are sick, and at this moment our ambulance has no idea where to take them, right? And so we need to allocate some of our funds to try and set up our own triage centers here in our own communities to make sure our people are taken care of in this time, and and then to call on the government of Canada to recognize that still as truly Six Nations, we're doing this because we do have a treaty right to health with respect to our medicine laws. So, with that, Samson Cree Nation, we are fully behind calling state of emergency for the Maskwacis Cree because, for the 4 nations that we're all, contiguously joined and put together here, we're all family. And, we need to do this together as a family because we're all in this together. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Vern. Okay, next up we'll have Bradley Rabbit. I'm just going to put this audio mic clipped on closer to the microphone. Boy, if the public was here, they'd be very astonished how empty this building is today. I just want to make a remark that we are practicing safe social distancing. We're congruent with that. There's probably about maybe 10 people in this building outside of the Chiefs. It's very sparse out here. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bradley Rabbit.
Anse wahko magan tektotim tekmoignois mayottamit na ganista gip nanas mau ko tawe no asaimina wa parti ko tutakis ka Viet quick to yaso no mano samot bimams ko chige tapum stay ay man yume got samo wa parte na no mota ne oska niu paska niu Maskwacîs Agam sta asai ke mamskut ta ke ko ho ke gotta ga ko kumao igani ok aga Simon Brad Rabbit is my name. I'm a current council member from the Montana First Nation, a former chief. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Montana First Nation and Chief Leonard Stenningon, which is currently on quarantine as we speak. He's ensuring that the health and well-being of not only Montana First Nation and the 4 Nations community is taken into consideration with his ailment. And I'm very happy to report that he's getting better, he's feeling better. We're seeing challenging times here within First Nations country, not only here in Maskwacîs. Declaring the state of emergency is supported by the Montana First Nation. As you had heard Chief Saddleback have stated that this declaration is not meant to create a scare or a panic. These type of mechanisms allow the governments, the councils, to be able to access resources and benefits to ensure that the protection of the community members are in place. We all know that it's a very, very challenging time within the community. And a lot of us, it's really, really uncharted territory. I don't recall in the past 20 years that we've ever seen a pandemic situation as this one. But yet, we all still continue to be able to do our best in maintaining service delivery, ensuring that we have emergency management teams in place to ensure that service delivery goes on. We really are challenged, but yet, as our elder had stated in our prayer, he had asked us to persevere with his prayer. And within each and every one of us, we have the ability to be able to overcome these challenges, but we all must work together to be able to achieve that. Take every precautionary measure that's put in place by staying home, social distancing. All these precautionary measures are important. And I think, as you have all heard in the media in the last few days, that if you're going out there, you're not only jeopardizing yourself, but everybody else, not just within this community. Again, I encourage every one of you to be able to stand together and to think positive towards these challenging times. Because with a positive mindset, we're going to be able to overcome challenges, especially if we do it collectively. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to me.
Up next, we'll have Okimau from the Louisville tribe, Chief Irvin Bull.
Anigan tan kita tamskar na gakyo na naskumao Okimau kagagismut Xman miwasik nesto kagagismo ya mo iski goiga o imam skotama o iskongana ego peg kamam skotama ego chuta gapia Amma aksun suitega magoteg ego tanom Okimau goge kau itap magek egi mam skotchega tan songe ke totama mi veiten man emi mam skotchega ja Wichatoskemtoja, eikö mannu kohtanan. Eikö ahtonea kameimoja oma kameikoa koattakiikoja, mistä ei mamtuneita miikoja. Saamai sinuak, ottaa Maskwacîs, minam suite, ja mamtunei majakek. Ankape, että kohteet tsekkape, kiukeet tsekkape, toskeet tsekkape. Kia miu mahtihon wistoa ega ajom katauks kaagotsek mi suitega magotek megwats. Stai mamtunei tami kunana koskajak. Kiapets pana hamksetsek. Mueno ten tohtahkik kaksatahkik wigoau. Kiwani kiihwak kehteek. Kan tohtau ja megwats. Pits koatihkok, siihkemihkok, kako eksatahkik. Moega koi pana hamksetsek. Pikoja keksiitu. Anmin omkaapan paihtaat taskiinau. Peekon eksiitu kaksatameg. Nanaskumaa kange tatuskeimin katuskata kikmaan aksuin ksnahmatuin tone akameimotsik wisto egomgate puatama tansum kigoja kagoigatsnama kawichihoja utasik Maskwacîs Eks moigottaat soi viittimiket tohtea. Tona amsta homaya tahtogiskao et toskatama eguangatoske vinuak. Tatami koktane aga meimotsikki koi ego pinastatsik. Na aga asi monego. Munia wehtaan kiikoyo ngamam skotaman. Hange moiganihtaan ei hioitsik. Egua kiugewak. Agamas kiotse. Okay, good morning everyone. I want to thank everyone for being here. As Josh stated, there's very few people in this room due to the concerns. Everybody was elbowing each other. No more hugs and kisses. But anyways, I want to thank our Grand Chief, International Chief, Dr. Wilton Littlechild, Nigwe Meman Sigatonan. Igagismos tamagoya. Nigangagismot mois mamskochigaya. But I want to thank him for his prayers. As well as everyone that's here. We called this state of emergency at Maskwacis Cree level. Us as the four chiefs, council, we come together, united under the tribal office of Maskwacis Cree. But each of us as well, from our own respected nations, tribes, we have our own declaration, our own statement of emergency. But as a collective, we're looking at what is it that we need. We want to ensure, that supplies, everything is provided to us. We have a population of 18,000. Our population's higher than Wetaskiwin and Panoka put together. We need to have those continued supplies for testing. And if things get to next level of extreme, such as lodging, emergency lodging. As I stated, we have 18,000 plus members. We have 2,000 homes. That's like 9-10 people per household. That creates an unsafe atmosphere. I want to thank our directors, our management, emergency management team that are continuing to work together. But for us as the chiefs, we've been very busy, getting informed, making the decisions that we have to on behalf of the tribal members, but as well, trying to stay on top of this virus. I want to send a message out to our members, the parents, grandparents that are raising your grandchildren. A lot of our children and youth are still running around, maybe even partying. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be staying home. Even the Prime Minister of this country is encouraging people to stay home, stay healthy. And for us, that's our same message to the membership. We care. And we want to make sure that everything is going to be provided here in Maskwacîs. So with that, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Exe, tamina.
I'm so used to hearing applauses after that. It's kind of weird how quiet it is. And so, without further ado, I'd like to invite up Regional Chief Marlene Portress.
Great speech there. Tanse te tamskat nao ka kiao. Nigan nuftawi nao nanas kamao. Anuskis te gawa samana maigoya. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the Creator for giving us another beautiful day. And thank you, Dr. Littlechild, for your beautiful prayer for starting us off this morning. I'd like to thank the Maskwacîs chiefs for inviting me to be here with you today. As Regional Chief of Alberta, I felt that it's very important that I support the chiefs, and I came out of my isolation to be here with you today, because to me that's important. I commend the leadership for the steps that you have taken to protect your community, to prepare for this pandemic. The Maskwacîs Declaration is unique in that it specifically references the famine and pestilence clause in treaty. Our ancestors knew that these days were coming, and they overcame many obstacles so that we could stand here today. They made sure the clause would be there in times of great need, and that time is here now. It is incumbent upon the Crown, the other partner, to act with honor and to come to the support of nations and ensure that First Nations are at the decision-making tables. After all, the leadership of the First Nations are the experts in the communities. They know what the issues are, and they can also provide dialogue and input into the decisions that are being made on their behalf. If the virus were to get into the First Nations communities, it could be devastating. We're very vulnerable. We have a lot of issues, overcrowded housing, and the list goes on and on and on. And we don't have the same level of health care support services that the rest of Canada enjoys. So that's why it's very important to support prevention efforts and prepare for the pandemic, and the efforts must be stepped up now. Many other First Nations have declared state of emergencies and taken steps to secure their borders. The Assembly of First Nations has also stated a national state of emergency for First Nations regarding the COVID-19. We've taken this step to ensure that First Nations are fully supported, that they have the resources they need, and that they are involved in the decision-making and issues that affect them during this pandemic. So that's critical. This is about the health and safety of our families and our communities. We need to act now. First Nations will not be left behind, and that is the words of the Minister Miller himself. We will not let that happen. Our leaders will not let that happen. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here today, and I wish everybody out there the best of luck in protecting yourself and your communities. Hai, and askum nawal.
Thank you. Thank you for those very, very kind words. So without further ado, Dr. Wilton Littlechild, can we, I'll bring the microphone to you, so you don't need to go. You could do a review of the document here. And then what we'll do is, once it's read, you could sign, and everyone here has 2 copies. And what you could do is one's for yourself and one's for the copy that stays here. Am I correct? Yeah. So make sure you keep one for yourself, but pass one along that everyone can sign for the record here. Okay, so I'll bring the mic and this little package, so give me a brief second.
Before I inform the public about the declaration, I wanted to make additional comments to what my leaders, the chiefs, have already stated. We've heard it said before that leadership is not about what you do when things are easy. Leadership is about what you do when things are tough. And I want to thank the chiefs present for taking the tough decision, which I'm going to explain in just a few moments. We've monitored the situation from 4 different elements. We've looked at the global situation, what is happening around the world. We've looked at it from a national perspective in terms of the response that is being given to this challenge at the national level. We've looked from the provincial territorial level to see that level of government and what they're doing for their citizens. And very importantly, we have also looked from the treaty territory level, what our brothers and sisters are doing in other parts of our treaty territories. So from these 4 distinct foundations, the chiefs and councils who met here on an urgent basis on Sunday came to a very difficult decision. The decision for the protection and safety of all members and guests to our territories, protection of health and safety. They declared the Maskwacîs territory, which spans from the east, the Samson Cree Nation, the south, the Montana, the west, Mimiu Sagayganik, Mamio Beach or Mamio Lake, and Ermineskin, and from the north, the Louis Bull. So from that perspective, you heard the large territory that spans the areas for which our leaders have to think about. I wanted to also acknowledge the advice that has been given by the World Health Organization, by the Canadian Health and Provincial Health Organizations. We've taken those into account as leaders to come to this decision. But I want to underscore one very, very important element of the Cree Nation, which is not really and I apologize as it's a personal statement. It's my view that it's not really being given the attention that it should. The Cree, in our own way, in our own ways, in our customs, in our traditions, we have traditional practices. We have traditional medicines. We have traditional ceremonies. Those are not being considered as important. But I want the general public to know, especially our youth as well, to know that they are important. Yes, we have a health crisis. Yes, we have an economic crisis. But we should also be saying, yes, we have a spiritual and cultural crisis. Because that's where a solution lies. That's where treatment is available for the Cree peoples who have always been willing to share with others. I won't go into detail about the use of our traditional medicines, which have been effective already with persons that have been impacted by the coronavirus. In other words, lives have been saved already. I also want to thank our prayer warriors. Every day, every morning, and throughout the day, our spiritual leaders, our elders, are offering thanksgiving and prayer for everybody, not just for Maskwacîs. And that element, the spiritual element of the holistic view of health, has to be engaged if we're going to succeed at a more faster pace than we're going. I want to add my voice of support to chiefs of Maskwacîs about their concern about our youth. This message is directly to you, the young people. You heard your leaders. Listen. Listen to their message that this is a very serious issue and you need to take care of yourself. Take good care of yourself. Be mindful of what you put in your mind. Be mindful of what you put in your mouth. And be mindful of others. So young people, please pay attention to your parents, the elders and the leaders who are advising you to be careful. I want to add a thank you to our regional chief for supporting Maskwacîs. And she referenced a statement that was made by our minister. Yes, it's very encouraging to hear that no one will be left behind. But the reality is we are being pushed behind. And that's very serious. And to the leaders across the country who are meeting today, the provincial territorial leaders who continue to meet and announce what they're doing for their citizens, I say to you, Yes, don't leave anybody behind. But more importantly, don't push us behind. We're here to help. We're here to join you. We're here to offer what we have to contribute to the wellness of all peoples. So the 4 chiefs and councils, along with advisors from our health, the emergency task teams, which I want to also pay tribute to, the emergency ambulance drivers, the medical staffs, the fire departments, all the public safety services, including the police, have been working very hard to assist, and I thank them for that. So the difficult decision came on Sunday to declare a state of emergency for the Maskwacîs territory of Treaty Number 6. The state of emergency is based on different authority than other governments. It's based on the inherent right of our leaders of self-government. It's based on a gifted right that we have through treaty, which is the medicine chest clause, which is also the, for pandemics like we have today, the famine and pestilence clause. These are legal obligations. And today, as governments meet, deciding on how they're going to obligate or distribute financial resources and other human and medical resources, be mindful that Treaty 6 is unique in that way. Indeed, the numbered treaties are unique in that way. So we have an inherent right to declare what the chiefs have done, which is a state of emergency for the Maskwacîs territory of Treaty 6. And it's in mindful of the safety of all of our members. It's in being mindful of all guests and visitors to Maskwacîs territory that this decision has been made. It was not easy for the chiefs to make that, but I'm proud. I'm proud of my leaders for taking that step. So, to the public at large, to our neighbors in Wihtaskiwin, to our neighbors in Ponoka, to our neighbors in Paskaiganik, Utuskonik, we are in a critical geographical location. When the airport in Calgary was designated as one of the landing points for international flights to bring people back home, we're very close to that airport. We're also even closer to the Edmonton airport. We took all that into consideration. We took the fact that our people are being turned away from the hospital into account when the decision was being made to declare a state of emergency. As I said, it was not easy, but it was important to be taken. And it's for the benefit not only of Maskwacîs members, but all our neighbors that surround the Maskwacîs territory of Treaty 6. So thank you, chiefs, for taking this difficult decision. And members, you heard from your chiefs. Support their leadership in what they're doing to protect you and your families and to protect others as well. So thank you very, very much. From the four directions, I offer thanks. Nananas kumon. Nananas kumon. Nananas kumon. Nananas kumon. Ay. Thank you.
Thank you. So those are nice words. So from this point, I would like to request that the chiefs sign their declaration, and one copy will be for yourself, one copy will be for the procurement of our records, for our records, I guess. And just as you're signing, we did ask a few questions. We opened up our social media feed on Facebook, and we've asked viewers to, if they have any questions, to ask. So we have a few questions from our digital audience at home or wherever they are. I will, when you're done signing, we'll take some pictures. Just mind your social distancing, and make sure you're washing your hands. And after we're done signing here, I'll open the floor for a few questions, and we'll ask the Okinawa here to speak to. So we'll just give us a few moments to have these signed. Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hello? Okay, there we go. Sorry, I've been tasked with trying to address the first question here. The question here is, will the state of emergency enforce social distancing? Will there be any repercussions if disobeyed? One of the weaknesses we have in all First Nations community is the lack of civil enforcement. So when you have to ask that question, will the state of enforcement, will the state of emergency enforce social distancing? It's one of those that we have to ask all people to self-enforce themselves. We have to start there. We do have our own security out in Samson Cree Nation, and when it comes to public gatherings, we'll be asking security to help keep to keep people to behave civilly, to enforce our social distance for any maybe public gatherings that may happen. But when it comes to social distancing, all Canadians should be practicing social distancing. I mean, we're all in this together, and we all need to practice that. Will there be any repercussions if disobeyed? And as I've mentioned, we don't have our own civil police forces in our community. We only have our RCMP, which we are grateful to have a relationship with them. Unfortunately, the RCMP only enforce the civil. The Criminal Code of Canada, right? So they don't really enforce civil policing. So in our communities on reserve, we're just asking all our people to do their part, because we're all in this together. Excellent.
Hi.
Okay. Number 6, we'll try. Okay. Number 6 here is what about people in Pigeon Lake Four Nations Reserve? I can't speak for the other 3 nations, but I'm sure that we're all in the same boat. We do have our people that live out in Pigeon Lake, not just Pigeon Lake, but for Samson and Ermineskin, we do have, and I think there's one member of Louis Bull, but we do have some members that live out in Mountain Cree. We have people that live in Calgary. We have people that live in, we have people that live all over the geographic territories of Alberta and Canada. So when we're working on trying to create a state of emergency, trying to provide services, we all have in mind trying to have services for everyone, no matter where they may live. And for Samson, we're the same. We're trying to provide. We're going to be trying to put together sanitation kits, but we want to try and provide it for everybody. And we have a little bit of logistics how to get them out to all our people, but definitely everyone is going to be on our target for respect to trying to provide services, including, especially Pigeon Lake, and for all people. And we're going to try and do our best to try and reach out to everybody that we can.
Okay, so we have another question. So we have, Mr. Maybe.
Okay, I'm just going to answer the question on what will be implemented with declaring the state of emergency. As you're aware, the chiefs have spoken on the different services that we need, especially with buildings and medical doctors, supplies. So that's why this declaration is being done today, so that those services will be there for our people, because right now, as we all know, those services aren't there. So we're doing this to protect our people, and so so if this happens, we're ready. So we're working with the schools too. They're waiting. They're ready if anything does happen. We're talking with MHS every day, FNIB, AFN. So we're Minister of Health, I guess the doctor, every morning she's on the air, Prime Minister. So we're getting daily updates on how things are happening. As we've been mentioning since this started, it's daily the situation changes. So daily we're getting updates, and we're discussing what to do. What happens next. So it's a daily updates, and working on this. So, with the state of emergency, that's what we're doing. So, plus we're working with our media outlets, our departments of communications, our Facebook sites, Twitter, everything, so that we can get the information out to our members so that they know, so that they're all aware. So, that's what we're doing right now.
Sorry, muy goodness. I just want to maybe add to that a little bit more, okay? I think one of the messages that we have to get out there, and this is not just for the Maskwacis Cree, but this is for all people, no matter where you live, is that, we have to plan for the long term. This isn't going to go away in 15 days. This isn't going to go away in 2 weeks or a month. This might be here for 2 months, and we have to start planning as such. And with that in mind, we have to put the relevant bodies. It's like Chief of Ermineskin, my uncle Craig said. We have to give certain regulatory bodies out there notice that we quite possibly taking over public buildings. Like, for example, in Samson, we do have a bingo hall, so we do have to inform AGLC that we may take over their bingo hall with respect to in case things get worse. Our short-term immediate situation we need to address first, though, is respect to health care. Right now, the Wetaskiwin and Ponoka hospitals have quit taking in, if you show signs of a flu, they're not taking people in, right? Because they're trying to protect against the COVID antivirus, and we understand that. But that doesn't provide services for those of our people in our community who do have the flu. It's still flu season. With the snow melting, we've got snow mold coming up, so people's allergies are going to be acting up, and we still have people that are sick that are still going to need services. And when our ambulance service pick up our sick people, they need somewhere to take them. So as a foreign nations, we have to have that discussion with our medical health, and that's what a state of emergency allows us to do. Is how do we create our own safe drop-off zone to help provide health services to our people? So, we're all in this together. The 4 chiefs were all talking about how do we support our people here at Maskwacîs, and that's really what this is about, is just trying to marshal services and try and gather and try and get the best plan out there for the best supports for everybody here in Maskwacîs and wherever our people may be living. Excellent.
We have a few comments from Chief Irvin Bull.
Oh, somebody's speech here. No, one of the things I got to acknowledge our emergency management team. They're meeting every morning, along with our health director, our ambulance services, and they're keeping us updated. And I want to ask the membership, to support the decisions that are being made, through the emergency management team and the chiefs and councils. Respect the decisions that we're making, such as our offices are closed for a number of people coming in and out. We don't want to spread the virus, but as well, we have curfews. We may start implementing our curfew laws. And hopefully, and this is where I'm saying the parents, encouraging you to keep your children at home. And with our education program, they're working hard to continue education services through online. I want to thank Brian Wildcat and his team for continuing to provide the education services to our children, our youth, and with the elders, that are continuously praying, lifting their pipes. I thank you for that. Thank you for the prayers going out to all our people. So with that, thank you once again. And as stated, our Grand Chief, I always try, and I forgot this morning, to remind the governments, we signed treaty on a nation-to-nation basis. And with Treaty 6, we have the Medicine Chest Clause, which includes famine and pestilence. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have representative from Montana come speak. You got any volume?
I was curious if you guys have to take a couple minutes just to take a couple questions from me there as well, if that's all right.
You want to answer?
Yep. They're reasonably general, so whoever feels best to answer.
Just before we do that, I want to make some general.
Yeah, he wants to make some general comments first, and then we'll have Marlene kind of close it out, and then we'll open up for questions.
Okay, again, I agree wholeheartedly with my colleagues with the comments that are being made here today regarding this state of emergency. Again, this state of emergency is a mechanism needed for us as the leadership to be able to find resources needed to look after the needs of our community members. I know it's very challenging times because the resources that are currently allocated to the nations do not allow us to be able to find ways to be able to look after the community members as they have guidelines with them. But at the same time, we need the support of the communities to be able to ensure that we're looking after the needs of not only our children or grandchildren, but even those off reserve, which is a very challenging thing right now for the nation, for those of you living off reserve. I know that we have different programs and services, and right now with the circumstances regarding the challenges that we have right now, you need frontline support staff to be able to do the research in order for us to make effective decisions in dealing with the needs of the community. I am so very grateful for our frontline health workers here at MHS, our emergency management staff here at the Montana First Nation. I'm very grateful for the collective emergency management team that we've collected at the Four Nations. Again, our emergency medical services through the ambulance, and like I said, my hat goes off to all of you. And right now, at the challenging times that we do have, I think that we all encounter different scenarios that are impacting the nations. One of my colleagues talked about the hospitals right now, our people being turned away. The ambulance services, again, dealing with sick people, but not having a place to be able to take them. Also, some of our homeless people too. You know, there are so many challenges that have opened our eyes, and hopefully the government can see even more closely the social challenges we face as First Nations, because they're being at the forefront. We talk about worst case scenarios again in case this pandemic does come. We have to be prepared. And in order to be prepared for that, we need infrastructure resources to be able to ensure that we have buildings set aside for emergency quarantine. We talked with our stakeholders, our local stakeholders, even with MESC. He talked about about AGLC. He even talked about the idea of talking to the Samson had talked about talking with Corrections Canada, with the Maskwacis Center. But these are all ideas that need time to be able to implement. And again, we believe that these ideas are realistic in nature. And right now, the needs of the community are at the forefront. But in order for us to ensure that those needs are ensured, we have to keep going, keep programs and services ongoing with limited staff. Rotational basis is what we're doing here at the Montana First Nation, and obviously we can't have a whole bunch of people all in one facility, but we're doing our absolute best to try and ensure that the community needs are met. Each and every one of us has faced challenges going out into the communities, whether we're going out for groceries, going out for supplies. You're going out there and you're finding that the grocery shelves are empty. The leadership are taking those into consideration at the Montana First Nation by trying our very best to provide the essential needs that our community needs, whether it be through meat, eggs, potatoes, those essential things in food. Medical supplies is something that, and cleaning supplies is what we're very challenged by, which is why these mechanisms are important with calling this state of emergency. Obviously, we've made every effort to try and get bulk purchases made with a lot of supplies, but obviously the suppliers are so challenged with this with this pandemic that all those resources are limited to all communities, all organizations, and that's something that we needed to really take into consideration, which just makes this more challenging. But at the end of the day, again, it's up to each and every one of us as individuals, as families, to be able to ensure that we overcome these challenges. And again, it's I'm encouraging all the families to do their absolute best with what they have, and to try and work with the leadership and try to find alternative ways of dealing with some of those challenges as we go along. So I think those are the comments I want to make for now.
Okay, just a quick concluding comment. I just want to send messages out there, especially to our youth. You know, the youth, you're not invincible. This virus there's so many unknowns about it. It's mutated once, and if it mutates again, then it'll be very difficult for the medical professionals to find a vaccine that can help us as we deal with this virus. And I really cannot stress that it's very important that we practice social distancing, proper hygiene, and that we do our part. The leaders are doing everything in their power to deal with governments, to deal with whoever they need to deal with, to ensure that protocols and systems are in place so that we can protect the communities. But you have to do your part. And I encourage you all to do your part, because like I said, there's so many unknowns about this virus. It's spreading rapidly. And so please protect yourselves, because if it hits our communities, I'm afraid of the devastation that could occur. So do your part. Let's all work together. And I thank you again for the opportunity. Hey.
Okay, so we have a few questions from the media here that if you would like to all entertain or designate one chief to entertain, I'll let you decide that. The host, we could have, but go ahead.
First is more of a general question, just trying to understand the medicine chest clause in the treaty and how that makes this this declaration maybe a bit more unique from some of the other communities.
Well, I guess with what makes it unique is because it's in the Treaty 6, and it refers to the medicine chest clause. So that's where our treaty is different from the other treaties across Canada, because Treaty 6 has the medicine chest clause, and it has a reference in there of famine and pestilence. So that's where some of our argument is, based on this, because it's in the treaty. And the government has to respect that, because famine and pestilence is in there, and it says in times of need. So right now we are in times of need, and we're calling on the federal government to follow through on their treaty promise on that. So that's why we refer to those areas, so that it makes our argument stronger to get those dollars for us. So that's what we're expecting from the federal government as we sign off on this declaration. We move ahead, and we're hoping that the government does their part now, because we've done this, and now they got to follow through and respect their part of treaty.
How much is needed then right now, extra, compared to what it was like pre-coronavirus? I mean, it sounds like it's a lot to do with housing, with healthcare, with some of those issues specifically. What's changed then?
Well, some of it are outstanding issues we had from previously, so we can't really give you a number, because it's as we know, these issues have gone on since the start of treaty. So I can't really give you a general amount, because we go through our band departments and what we need, the amounts get higher. So I couldn't even give you an amount because it's probably going to be. I'm not going to say, but it's going to be a high amount. So.
How has it changed though since, from what you've seen, observed since coronavirus started to spread? I mean, what you've seen around there, how concerned are you with what needs to be done?
I think too, part of the problem I see is there's a lot of fear mongering, and there shouldn't be. We just gotta work together on this and get through it. And like my colleagues have said, we have our own practices, and we gotta use those because that will get us through. As our elders say, we listen to what they say. We'll be okay. We just have to have that faith, and that's the comment I'm getting from a lot of our elders is our faith in our ceremonies and our culture. That'll get us through, and then it's all of us working together.
Number of countries have decided to change what they do when it comes to their borders. Any thoughts within the First Nation, perhaps closing off the borders to the four First Nations, or are we away from that?
Well, I think we haven't even talked about that yet, but I do know that Treaty 8 is kind of doing a bit of that right now, so it's probably in the back burner right now, but as we discuss things as this goes on, there's always other things we need to talk about, other options, so it changes daily.
A number of you all spoke about the youth and the special plea out to the youth. Has there been a concern based on what you've seen of people spending too much time outside right now, or is that more of a general comment?
Well, it's like everywhere else, our youth are out and about that's the concern we have here. It's just we just need to make them aware of the seriousness of this, and just to practice safe, be safe and take care of yourselves. And they're told to stay home as much as you can, and that's the message we want to bring out to them. Is they just got to take care of themselves, and as we go through this, and they'll be better off in the end. And they follow through on the words that are being sent out.
Just a quick question for Chief Poitras, if at all possible, just a broader question for all First Nations. But how has coronavirus potentially affected First Nations in a way that perhaps it doesn't in other parts of the country? Is it unique? Does it affect First Nations uniquely at all, or in terms of responses?
Absolutely. I think because of the First Nations are a vulnerable population, because of the lack of housing, there's overcrowded housing, there's poor health conditions, lack of health facilities and services at the community compared to the rest of Canada. And so if it does hit the communities, there's a likelihood that it could spread a lot faster because I know in talking to First Nations Inuit Health Branch, they did say that they would have structures and possibly allow for retrofitting of housings or buildings that need to accommodate people that are positive. So there's a lot of considerations, but then those things have to be on the ground now. It's better for us to be prepared than to react when it hits the communities. So yeah, there is a real fear once it hits the communities. So that's why we're doing our best to be proactive to ensure that First Nations needs are met, all their needs are met. Thank you.
I just wanted to add a little to the treaty aspect. As Chief Mackinac stated, our treaty was nation to nation. And before we signed, we had a number of ceremonies. And our chiefs at the time recognized our visitors, as I called them earlier, that were coming to this country, were bringing diseases with them. that we didn't have medicines for. So while negotiating the treaty, they included that the minister or the Indian agent at the time will have a medicine chest clause in his office to provide the medical needs for the First Nations. And we at Maskwacîs have been looking to the governments to provide us a hospital. As I stated, our population is 18,000 plus. And if it comes, you ask the question, if we close the borders, where is the medical services going to be provided? We have our health center here that can provide a lot, but when it comes to having a client overnight, we don't have a place for that. So, we've talked about it in Louisville. The possibilities of us having to close our entranceway. We have 11, and we're one of the smaller bands. So what do? Buy gates, higher security. So these are extra costs that we're going to be incurring, and right now that's what's happening is the extra security that are called to make sure they're at the doorway, not to allow a high number of members coming into the office. So, I guess this is where, going back to the treaty, where, through TRC and the UN Declaration, we need to educate everybody about our treaty. It's a treaty between First Nations and the government. So, like the question you asked, you'd be aware of it. You wouldn't need to ask. But also, there's two interpretations of treaty. The written text, but the spirit and intent of our own translation of treaty. Because what was translated was from the priest to the government. And what's best for the government is what they wrote.
I just wanted to maybe answer a little bit of the questions that you asked in relation to some of the, challenges that we have here as First Nations people, aside from the general public. First Nations people, again, Chief Marlene had talked about some of the challenges that we do have in relation to housing. In many, many homes in the First Nations, we have chronic overcrowding. You have up to 12 to 15 people in a 3-bedroom home. Now, if one person in that home ended up getting sick, the entire home is quarantined. And at how close-knit we are with the way the government has been subsidizing infrastructure traditionally and historically, they've been subsidizing infrastructure through subdivisions. And those subdivisions are closer, so that it makes us more vulnerable to a lot of these sicknesses that are in place. Treaty obviously has been always at the forefront of everything that we speak. And we just had a meeting here just recently with the local municipality here, Wetaskiwin, about that understanding of what treaty really is. We really feel that the general public needs to be educated with security. Not only, it doesn't start only between the politicians, it's a long-term process. It's got to be instilled in not only our First Nations curriculums, but in the public's, in Alberta Advanced Education curriculums as well too. We need to add that to ensure that we all understand, because as Chief Bull had stated, some of the questions that you had talked about, if we wouldn't be answering those questions today, we all had that clear understanding of what treaty is. And again, some of the, you also asked a question about blocking outside, blocking people coming in. Those discussions are being had. But right now, at the same time, some of the challenges that we're facing is that we don't want to expose anybody to anything right now at this point. And obviously, right now we're having a hard time delivering programs and services. Like, obviously, I think in a perfect world, if this pandemic gets as serious as we hope, God forbid it gets any more serious than now, that is something that we have to consider. And again, it's something that it's in discussions, and we're talking about those costs. Obviously, there's so many costs to be taken into consideration, and right now, one of the political concerns that we do have is from the transfer of resources from what the Prime Minister announced to First Nations. Okay, how is that resource going to be distributed equally amongst all First Nations in Canada? And another question that we do have is, from what we understand, is that a lot of that is being transferred to the provinces, but why not directly to the First Nations where the need is really meant? You know, this is something that's really, really concerning about some of the announcements that are being made. And obviously, we even agree with other treaty territories as well, too, that the resources that have been identified are not adequate enough to look after the challenges that we face here in the community. Thank you.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in, people on the radio, people chiming in on social media. Really appreciate your time, and thank you for the questions. Thank you for media coming. Thank you for the chiefs for spending some time here doing the work that I think is essential for our people's safety. So thank you, and thank you the organizers here for and the tech, the IT to set this up, and the MHS advisor here. Thank you so much. So without further ado, I'd just like to wish everyone be safe. You know, remember to wash your hands and stay about 6 feet away from people. And I hope you have a good day. And thank you very much.